Hey everyone, this is Josh back with Cardboard Chronicles, and today I'm speaking with Jordan. Today's interview is a little bit different than what we've done before. Jordan's got a very unique perspective on the hobby, and he actually has a job where he is a NFL agent for different NFL players. So we have kind of a unique perspective today, and he's got a whole bunch of unique, diverse stuff. So it's gonna be a fun one. So Jordan, why don't you start us off? Tell us about yourself and how you got back into the hobby.
Yeah, sounds good. Josh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So I started collecting initially in 1994. So I'm from a city called Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and it's about 90 miles from Minneapolis. So as a kid, growing up, Brett Favre was the dude. And so 1994 came around, and my parents, they offered to buy me cards if I would carry the groceries. So this was the first Favre card I ever got. It was the 94 score, but being a kid, as you know, you're super impressionable. I was 9 years old in '94, and you're watching sports, baseball, basketball, football have really been my bread and butter. Jordan and Penny and Shaq, Sean Kemp and Grant Hill, those guys. Jason Kidd is one of my favorites ever. And then on the baseball side, Griffey and Frank Thomas, Cal Ripken. I mean, those guys were all incredible. Derek Jeter, A-Rod, McGuire in '98 was incredible. But yeah, '94, Marshall Falk was a rookie, and man, he was a sexy player and looked great in the uniform. And Favre was in Wisconsin; he just taken over for the Packers. So Favre was a catalyst. And in 1995, I met Brett Favre at a signing and a store opening, and it was crazy. And then in school, I did every project against about the Packers and football, and just kind of started this obsession. And then in '97, my sixth grade teacher and her husband brought me to a Packer game. So it was pretty wild. But
Nice.
and I think from there, just started collecting. It was Grant Hill, it was Jason Kidd, it was guys like MJ, which you remember the 45 cards were crazy. My friend Andy, my friend Andy had the Jordan 93, 94 refractor, which was just impossible for me at that point.
Yeah.
And then of course you had the 45 refractor. I mean, these are cards I just could never get as a kid. So just continued to collect, and again, like being in Wisconsin, nice. That's a beauty. You got the rookie, right?
Oh, of course. I didn't bring it with me, but I have it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a great era. I think it's the best era of cards. Shaq rookies, and all those guys. But Favre, it was Favre, Falk, Barry Sanders, Jerry Rice. A lot of those guys. Like I said, on the baseball side, Griffey. This was kind of the card of desire. Couldn't get that. No chance to get that. But now I think I have 50 of those, which is obnoxious. But we'll get into that a little later. But I collected until 2000. So '96 I was big on Eddie George. '97 Warwick Dunn, really like running backs for some reason. Terrell Owens, Randy Moss in '98, even though I'm a Packer fan, which is wild. And then Peyton Manning. I actually was a big fan of Ryan Leaf. I still am. He's kind of turned his life around, but that's an obscure one. But Peyton Manning and those guys in '99, Edgerrin James, Donovan McNabb, Ricky Williams, and then again McGuire and Sosa were red hot in baseball. So that home run race really attracted me, and the '85 Topps McGuire was just like everybody, kind of a wild card to see.
Yeah, so why don't you get into then where you're at currently with collecting, what you collect now, and where your focus is.
Yeah, so I was out of collecting from 2000. I found a stack of about 15 Tom Brady rookies when I got back into it, because they were just pretty common back then, and I hadn't touched my cards for 15 years or 14 years. And so I dove back in and found a bunch of those, and it was kind of a catalyst to look at what I actually had. And I had a lot of common, just basic stuff. But the crazy story about how I got back into the hobby is 13, 14, I moved to New York at the end of 13, and moved to Queens, and I bought a couple old boxes of just junk wax on eBay. It was like 94, 95, something, just, so I could just like have beers with my buddies and rip cards, just cause.
Yeah.
And the guy I bought them from had a bunch of boxes listed on eBay, and I was like, I wonder where this guy got these. So we ended up meeting up. I said, I bought 2 boxes for like $40 or something. And we met up, and I said, where did you get these? Did you have a shop or something? You have a bunch of boxes. And he said, he's a mailman. And he hesitantly met up, like it's kind of a weird thing these days, the internet. But
Right.
we met up, and he said he's a mailman, and everybody in his neighborhood knows that he loves sports. And so he got a call one day that there was a bunch of sports stuff in a dumpster. And so he went over to the dumpster, and there were 600 unopened boxes of wax
Holy
boxes.
shit.
So it was pretty much 90, early to mid 90s. So you didn't get into the metal stuff. Imagine if that would have been the case. But,
Right.
and so he had these shelves. I got to know him a little better, and then eventually went and saw his kind of collection, and we're actually cool now. And it's like crazy how the hobby brings people together. We'll watch football once in a while and stuff like that. But he had all these unopened wax boxes in his basement, and I went down and it's just shelves. And I was like, dude, if I bought a bunch of these, what could we do? And we eventually built rapport, and he gave them to me for like $6 a piece.
Wow.
And I bought like just a crate. I mean, and they were going for 20, 30, $40 on eBay. But I just wanted them to pull. And that kind of was a catalyst to get back into it and to really, I mean, ripping packs with friends was very nostalgic. And I mean, that's kind of what got me back in. And I was pulling like Favres and Griffeys and some of these cards. And I'm like, man, to feel that getting out of a pack, I never had that when I was a kid. I never pulled anything good when I was a kid. I just had a lot of junk. And buying singles is different than getting something in a pack, you know, but that's what got me back in.
So pulling the commons from those boxes got you sort of excited into the base cards and where you're at now?
Yeah. Or you would pull an insert and you'd be like, oh man. And then
Right.
you'd look that up and you'd see other things. And, you know, even basketball wasn't crazy at the time, you know, LeBron still was, but some of these cards, like I showed you a little before, they weren't going for what they are now. I mean, even now they're triple than what they were in like even 2015, some of these kind of rare cards. But yeah, I mean, Favres, I started picking up old Favres, and I'll just show you some of the older cards that kind of got me into the hobby that I started picking back up. You know, I showed you the 94 score, some of these just beautiful cards, but they were very cheap.
Right.
But still like really well designed. You know, the SP 95 was really great. I remember the Terrell Davis rookie in that set. But like some of these cards that you just don't see anymore, you know, really just awesome cartoons and characters, and then some of these inserts, you know, pay dirt, which is great.
That's cool.
I have the red of this, and you know, it's pretty rare. The story from when I was a kid is the dream team here. My mom, I was at a card shop in '96, and the guy, you know, Favre was in the middle of his back-to-back MVP run, and the guy said, we're buying any Favre for full Beckett book. And I had like hundreds of Favres, and I called my mom. I said, hey, can you come through and like bring my Favres? And so she did. And when she got there, I opened the box and they were all messed up. I was like, what happened? She goes, oh, I dropped them in the snow.
Oh.
And I was devastated. Like the cards were ruined, completely ruined. And of course the guy didn't want to buy them. So I went home and I definitely cried. You know, it was devastating. But you know, a lot of the cards, and that's probably now why I picked a lot of these back up. But like some of these ultra inserts were just incredible. And even some of these like playoff, you know, these just really wild, you know, Hobby Masters is one of the coolest sets I've always thought. But even like Mr. Momentum, I mean, some of these are literally like $1 or $2. And then some of the refractors that I've always enjoyed refractors, and you know, Bowman was Bowman's best was great. You know, these I'm sure you know, basketball.
I have the Todd Gurley of that one.
Oh, nice.
Like the remake series. Yeah.
But I mean, these are cards that like the Mirror Gold. I mean, they don't.
Sick.
It's just insane. But like I told you a little earlier too, these like Pinnacle, Zenith. I mean, those sets were just crazy. This one too. I mean, these are just really wild designs that were so ahead of their time.
Yeah.
And you know, and then on the basketball side, like I said, I mean, you get these like really wild inserts that we just don't see anymore. So yeah, I mean, that's like, as you know, when you get back into this, it's a slippery slope, and
Yep.
it can be dangerous because you start picking up cards that you know you only dreamt of as a kid. I mean, these are things that you just, as a kid, like $400 is absurd to spend on a card, you know. And so I've come back in hot, and as I've done that, you know, we've connected, you and I and a lot of other people, and you know, guys like Grant and even Nat. You know, these guys are same love with the hobby, and it's something that the money doesn't even matter. It's just we all have the same connection to a lot of this cardboard, you know.
Right. So now I want you to talk about your career and how, you know, you actually like working directly with these pro athletes, which is an interesting perspective. So I'd love to hear, you know, what you do for a living. So go into that a little bit, and then how that relates to your collecting hobby, and maybe like what they think of it.
Sure. So I actually was, as a kid, just kind of a hustler, right? So I was buying and selling football cards, and then I got into mowing lawns. One of my good friends, his name's Ron. We were collecting as kids, and they ended up leaving town, and I inherited their lawn mowing business, and I had like 26 lawn mowing clients as a 12-year-old kid. It was just wild. And it was great because then I could use that money from lawn mowing to buy cards. And I eventually started buying sneakers. I could never really afford sneakers too much as a kid. I did have the Sean Kemp Kamikazes in '95 though, which are pretty sick. Like $60 at Kohl's or something, right?
Right.
And then that evolved to buying and selling sneakers in college. And then from there, I parlayed that into a job at East Bay. And I'm sure you remember East Bay catalog. So I worked in East Bay in marketing, which is in Wausau, Wisconsin, which is 90 miles from my hometown.
Wow.
And they really didn't know what I was going to do there, but I came in and started working with pro athletes and sneakers. That's how my collection got up to be like 650 pairs of sneakers, which is just obnoxious. Once you're hoarding, whether it's cardboard or sneakers,
Right.
you're in trouble.
Right.
But anyway, so I started working with a bunch of pro athletes, was very fortunate to work with, J.J. Watt, Calvin Johnson, Kevin Durant, even MJ and Kobe. And, just as I worked with these guys, I started meeting their agents. And so in 2012, I ended up leaving East Bay. 2013, I started working with an agency where I started doing marketing projects for them. And then I got certified as an NFL agent in 2016, at the end of 16. I recruited my first class in 17, and now I'm entering my second year as an agent. So I also work in marketing at a media company in New York as well. So just around athletes through the company I work with, have met Allen Iverson and Penny Hardaway and your guy, and Dwayne Wade, and a lot of these guys that you grew up watching, and they're now actually similar to our age, which is crazy. Like almost every pro athlete is like younger than us, which is wild. But as I went down that path, I realized like I think I bring a unique skill set and a unique perspective, because a lot of these agents are just trying to get deals done. Whereas, I knew how much it meant when I met Brett Favre. So now I represent a kicker from the Kansas City Chiefs. His name's Harrison Butker. Actually designed his card.
Nice.
My friend Steph and I designed it. So shout out to Steph. But like really cool to like have met Favre, and then now you design your own player's rookie card, and the impact he's had on these kids is exactly what I had with Favre, right? So to pay that forward is really interesting and cool, kind of full circle. But yeah, the career path, I've tried other jobs and other things, and it doesn't pull at me like sports. And so I think you have to chase what you enjoy, right? And we talk about that in the hobby of just buying what you love. And I'm the same way in life, doing what you love and surrounding yourself with people that understand that.
Right.
So yeah, I've been very lucky. Just as an agent and otherwise, like I worked with over 150 pro athletes at East Bay, and definitely a wild kind of ride. And my collection is actually signed sneakers. So I have a lot of cards, but I also have signed shoes I only get the shoes if I've met them. So I'll tell you the story about KD in a minute, but I have KD and Jordan and Shaq and Penny and Sean Kemp, Barry Sanders. Still need some guys like Griffey and Kobe and some of those guys, but I've really enjoyed that process too, because it's able to combine my love of memorabilia, but also, if I meet them. I only want the autograph if I actually meet them.
Right, that's awesome. So tell me more about the sneaker collection. You're hinting at it a little bit, but how does that play in with your card collection? And is it similar? Like, what's the game there?
So for me, it was always, I couldn't afford shoes as a kid, so I just wanted like cool sneakers. I still only probably wear about 5 to 10 sneakers. I just kind of rotate them, but I have a lot of collectible sneakers. I give a lot of sneakers away. Started a football camp in my hometown a couple years ago. Been giving away sneakers to some of those kids. Just imagine being a kid and you get a free pair of shoes. Like you're baffled. You just don't understand why it's happening. So I've been fortunate to have relationships with brands that have given us some shoes. I like to give away a lot of shoes. The autograph sneakers is very much like cards. Cards and sneakers are actually very close. Back in the day, it was card shops and card shows and big collectors and dealers and a sneaker shop, card shops. And now it's like sneaker shops and sneaker shows. There's like, I work with the guys at SneakerCon, and there's like 15,000 dudes that come to a show. It's just a big buying and selling. It's like the national for sneakers. So they're very parallel, and there's some that are more rare than others. I think, I look at sneakers and it's like cards. I don't need every expensive card. I just, when I see it and it kind of sings to you, that's when you buy it.
Yeah.
But it started with like wanting autograph shoes. Was I met KD and got a shoe signed, and I was like, well, I'm going to be meeting these guys. So then I met Iverson and I met some of these other guys, and I got it signed, and I was like, well, it's kind of a cool souvenir, and not just a selfie or a photo, but to actually be able to have something that kind of tells a story. And I know I'm babbling on here, but I think cards, and they really define kind of different moments of your life, right? You're just kind of, for me, like some of these Favres, having some of these Favres that, I could only dream of as a kid, were really just, both jerseys. It's pretty wild that back in the day they were so unattainable. But now, your collection is kind of a reflection of how far you've come.
Yep.
And you're really able to see the evolution of your taste and the evolution of, what you're buying, why you're buying it. I mean, I can connect a lot of these cards to actual moments where I was so pumped when I was getting it. And there's something very nerdy that we go through of like these bubble mailers showing up, and these are grown men just waiting for like manila envelopes, It's very weird.
Did you watch Brendan's interview? He talked about a similar thing where he's saying like, if he died or whatever and someone saw his collection, that they could know who he was just by looking at his cards, right? It's like a museum of your life almost.
It's true, and it's cool you mentioned that because, I mean, I've watched all the episodes, and I think, I have a lot of respect for everybody who's come on, and everybody. I ran into Sam at a card show, which is super cool, and great kid, and the hobby's in good hands if we have kids like him, And the key for me, I think, is to pay it forward and to find ways to get kids to fall in love with it, just like we did with Penny or Favre.
Yep.
And I actually have thought a lot about, the legacy play and what are you doing? I'm sure you have a 3-year-old son, and you'll teach him to be a collector, whether he likes it or not. But
Yeah.
But beyond that, I've thought like, would it be cool to? I would love to meet Favre again and talk to him, and and I'm sure he doesn't know a ton about the cards, but to go through that, I think it'd be really interesting. And then also I've thought about, some of my collection I'll probably donate to the Packers. I have a friend that works there and have connected with a lot of different teams. So I think it's a profound thing to share these stories, and my story of meeting Favre and then becoming an agent and pursuing this career and then collecting all these cards. Imagine if you curated a penny collection for the Orlando Magic. I mean, no one's going to do it better, And I feel like that's kind of I'm a huge fan of things kind of finding their rightful home. So that's like, for me, I'm thinking longer term. Of course, when I have kids, I think I will give some of these cards to the kids, but I also think it would be fun to donate some of these to Brett Favre's estate, or to the Packers, or to the Packer Hall of Fame, because for me to go through this journey and then maybe go to the Packer Hall of Fame and see my cards, or maybe curated by me and some other Favre fans, which would probably be a lot more fun, would be pretty special, And that's something that I think is important to look at the long-term play, because we all selfishly collect a lot of these amazing cards, but what is the end goal, And which is why I'm writing this book, right, is to leave something behind that as well.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more to the card hobby than just the cardboard and the money and the the flipping and stuff. That's kind of why I made the channel. There's like the community side of it, and then there's like the nostalgia. There's the the friendships, and there's a whole other side to it that a lot of the guests that I brought on talked about it, and you're talking about it now. So that's really what it's like kind of the point of the channel, is getting behind the stories and showing off how we all came to be based on our collecting hobbies, right?
Well, and I give you a lot of credit. You're a catalyst for us all to, think about how we're presenting our collection, how we're talking about our story. But more importantly, you're kind of unearthing a lot of people that maybe wouldn't have, connected otherwise. And I mean, this is profound and deep, but in life, it's really about connection and just experience. And so, it'd be awesome for us all to connect at the National in Chicago and kind of keep talking. And that's the thing. You've started a conversation, and you've been a catalyst for guys like Nat and Grant who, sit behind a keyboard, but now they have a chance to tell their story. And the stuff is really important, and it's very compelling. And it's also been really fun to see the growth, for the show, and for, like you said, you've gotten more access just because of the exposure. But that's what social media does. It exposes, your hobbies and your likes and your dislikes. I mean, but like you said on your episode with Michael, I mean, everything's been positive, and for me, there's nothing bad that can come out of this, really.
Sure. All right, I want to hear about this book.
Yeah,
you haven't
so
told me much. Like
I
you've been
haven't.
kind of coy about it.
Well, so as I started collecting, I thought, what is the mission here? Because you could sit and just collect all day, and I look at your penny collection, I'm like, man, what are you going to do with that? Because if you don't capture that in the right way, again, like when you're dead and gone, what is that story? So you have to capture it and leave it behind, and I'm going to challenge everybody to do that. Um, I saw Richard Branson on he did a podcast, and he said Tim Ferriss asked him, he said, tell me about this book, and he said, well, I really think everyone should write a book, and it's not just to sell it. It's really to leave it behind for your friends or your family and to help people understand who you are, what you are, why you are. And I thought, like, as I'm collecting, what am I doing? Am I just going to buy everything and then just have a room full of cardboard, or am I going to be able to share it? And just like your show, I mean, documenting this in a book or a series of books is something that I think would be important. So we were talking before how there really isn't a great book from the 80s or 90s. There's some vintage books that are pretty good, but no one's really done it well for the 80s and 90s. And so this book, I want to do one for baseball, one for basketball, one for football, and essentially talk about the evolution of cards. And so from 1980 to 2000, I think was the golden era. You've talked before about how really 97, 98, 99, 2000 were incredible years, and some of the best cards came out of that. And then from there, it kind of fizzled out. It was a lot more game use stuff. And then it's evolved to what it is now, which is just very simple, and the inserts will just never be the same. So the book will be that evolution, and it will talk about from just regular base cards to then, glossy to subsets to inserts to autographs to gold stamps to holograms to artist proof and first day issue, and like all the way through to where it did, this is the first game used jersey set from football. I'm actually fairly close to the set. I only need a couple more.
Wow. Those are sick, man.
And so, like, yeah, the rice and another merino, the white merino. I mean, these are like cards and this is for sure my favorite. I met Barry Sanders at the National 2015, and so I think I need like Rashawn Salam, another Rice, and the Montana, and then '97. Like I said, this was that. But again, like, and then on the baseball side, like I showed before, this is the Griffey, which is like, I think you go 89 upper deck, like I showed before as well. But like the 89 upper deck is probably the most iconic Griffey.
Yeah.
And then I think it's probably the Mantle dual autograph 94 upper deck. And then I do think that this jersey is probably like the top 5 most iconic Griffies.
Yeah.
So, so capturing that, documenting that, and finding ways to tell that story for each sport, I think is great. And so you get guys like you and Nat and some of these other like insane collectors on Instagram to help curate these stories for basketball. And then, for me on the football side, I have a pretty good lock, but there's some other good guys. But then you find people like the arenas, and the arenas are those designers from, Gene and Earl, and they're from Fleer and Skybox in the 90s. And they have an incredible story of how they got hired in 1990 and were really, they were really the ones that are responsible for the Rubies and all the PMGs and stuff. So I've been connecting with Jean more, and she's just an incredible woman who has great stories. And her husband, as you know, I told you this before, but her husband Earl designed the Scoring Kings, which to me is a top 5 iconic Jordan card. And she'll tell you more of those stories. But, you're going to see in the book, you're going to see, from the 80s to 2000. So you have, the Jordan rookie. I may or may not have 4 Jordan rookies.
I didn't know you had these cards.
I mean, I have a little basketball. So the Jordan rookie was something that I never thought I'd own. So now to have 4 of them, I'm really trying to document that, but also make sure that someone who could never get the Jordan rookie gets the Jordan rookie. And it doesn't mean they're going to pay full price for it. It just means that, I'm a huge fan of things finding its rightful home. And, and I think a lot of these Favre cards that I have, they're not going to really be loved much better, and I've connected with some collectors of Favre, and they're great dudes, but they're just not going to love it as much as me,
Yeah.
And they probably will love it a lot, but same with you with Penny, right?
Yeah,
like
the same, yeah.
It's just no one's going to love it as much as you. And so when you overpay for it, or, Grant hits you up, now the whole Nat and everybody are like, yo, they find a penny and they hit you up first probably.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a beautiful thing. So, But yeah, with that said, why don't you open that package? Talk about a rightful home. Let's get into that.
So I have literally no idea what this is. So you sent me this package, like you overnighted it, right? Because you sent it
I
Thursday,
did.
and I got it
I
yesterday.
did. You're gonna have to blur out those addresses.
I will do that.
You don't want people showing up at your doorstep.
Can you hear it just like ripping and stuff?
Yep, that's good. That's good for the show, Josh. You're gonna have to edit the 5 minutes of.
Okay, now I know.
I like it. I like it. This is good. The anticipation will people will dig it.
I think I know what it is.
We talked about this a while back. Like I think when we first met, which a lot has happened since then. You're now collecting Sun's pennies, which is a whole different ballgame.
All right, so I'm not gonna open it yet. So I'll show the box. It's a Nike shoe box.
A little beat up.
It's beat up, and that's okay. I mean, it's making it more interesting, right?
Yeah.
What, dude? No way.
Those are for you, man.
Come on, man. No way.
Yes, sir.
Those are in person, aren't they?
Yep.
Look at that.
Anthony Penny Hardaway.
Wow. So,
Penny wins.
holy shit, man.
Grab the other shoe. He signed the other one too.
No way.
He signed the toe. He
No
signed the toe.
way. There it is.
Wow, right?
Look at that.
Good stuff. The dual auto sneaker, which is very rare.
And then different locations. Let's get them both on there.
It's a good look.
Dude, thank you. That is such a nice. That's an amazing gift.
Yeah, it's you're welcome. I mean, I think so. I told you before when I met Penny on December 6th of 2014, and he was at SneakerCon, and so I brought a couple pairs. And so I have the Penny 2, the Atlantic Blue Penny 2 signed, and I also got that pair. And I didn't know you at the time, obviously, but as we kept talking, especially they match your PMG red, so that's a good look too.
I'm gonna display it, I think, with the red, the PMG.
I dig it.
That's sick,
yeah, I
man.
met him, and like I said, I mean, I'm a huge fan of things finding their rightful home, So yeah, I mean, just an iconic sneaker.
Got
This
the
is
old
back in
classic
the
bubbles. Yeah.
big. Yeah, so happy birthday or Merry Christmas, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just a huge fan of that experience of like those shoes are just better served in your house, and in your collection. I mean, I already have a signed pair, and so I could probably flip those for $1,000 or more or something, but I don't. That's not important, and I got them from Penny. So the full Anthony Penny Hardaway signature though is pretty wild.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good look.
Those are the Anthony Penny Hardaway. It's always like now he does the Anthony and he used to do the Penny, right? So it's crazy to see them both at the same time and the number 1.
And the cool thing is, like, I got those in person. I know the exact date. I have a selfie with Penny, the whole thing. So like the story behind getting those when I was about a year into me moving to New York, and I honestly, when I first got them, I'm like, some lucky dude is gonna get these because I was never gonna sell them, And as we kept talking, and I was like, you know what, these with your Penny collection, knowing how big of a fan you are, I feel like that's a. And now he's coaching, like.
Yeah,
he's relevant again. Now he's back in the mix.
So the shelf in some of my videos I film in my house, and I have my shelf behind. I'm gonna definitely put those there. These will be in all the future videos.
I dig it, man.
That's freaking awesome, dude. I love it.
Yeah. So go ahead.
You threw me off now. Now I'm like,
come on now, get it back.
Get it together here, right? Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Tell me, you didn't really touch on it, so I'm gonna go back to it. Tell me about like the players that you're agents for, and what they think of your card collection. I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, so like anything, the guys I work with, they're not big collectors, but specifically, my first client was Harrison, like I said, and he debuted. He initially got drafted by the Panthers, and got cut. Was on the practice squad. He competed with Graham Gano, and then the Chiefs picked him up for Week 4 last year. And in his debut, he missed his first kick. And then he made a couple kicks, and then he ended up hitting the game winner on Monday Night Football.
I remember that game.
And so it was pretty wild, and that's what this photo is too, which is nice. It's a great look. But he doesn't fully understand cards, but I think he appreciates. When he was a kid, he was a fan of the Atlanta Falcons and Mike Vick and some of these guys. So he understands the memorabilia. But a lot of these guys, I mean, they just play football and they just roll and they don't really think about it. But we've done some cool stuff with 8x10s and T-shirts and autographed cards and stuff. But I don't think the guys I work with really understand how heavy into it I am. I mean, this episode will probably help them see that.
They'll be scared of
But
you
I
now.
think, well, I think part of this is that, the biggest thing for me with this, with doing the book and like starting to collect again, is showing people what it's all about. And
Sure.
and it's not just these nerds collecting cardboard. I mean, these are some of the most passionate dudes and women on the planet that collect things that are meaningful to them. And I think everybody has what that is. Some people it's their families. I mean, family's very important to me. That's why I do like the family of Fleer Ultra gold medallions. Like I love this. I'm a completionist like you as well. So, but there's different aspects of your life that are part of the hobby. And what I always try to do is just educate people on. This isn't. Yeah, we're all nerds for sure. I embrace that. It's cool. I'm obsessed with cardboard and sneakers and. But I think when they hear the story and they really understand, when they really understand what it is and how it works and the nuances, they're like, wow, that's super interesting.
Right.
And so, we did a signing with Harrison last year and we had like 125 people show up. And I was like, man, this is like full circle. This is when I met Brett Favre and, it started everything. So some of these kids now they're DMing Harrison and they're emailing us and they're talking to us. And you see these kids, you're like, wow, that's the 10-year-old me.
Right.
And so they start understanding that, well, it's just my autograph. Well, no, it's the experience of meeting him, shaking his hand, and then getting an autograph card. Ironically, when I was in Kansas City, the next day, Bo Jackson was signing as well. So I went and met Bo. A couple of my buddies, they got a sneaker signed, and I didn't have a sneaker with me because I didn't know he'd be there. But I don't think some of the athletes really understand how much these people, including us, care. Like if you showed Penny your collection, there's no way he would know what a PMG is. Like you could put up that and like a regular, like you could put up like a Jordan, like this, and then like some crazy stuff that's worth 10 grand. And a lot of athletes might be like, yo, that gold one's actually more dope. I like that one. They just don't know. Right. And so I think part of this is educating them. But the guys I work with, I don't think they know I'm in this heavy. And that's okay because some guys may not be interested. They're just like, wow, I trust Jordan on this, card thing or this memorabilia thing. So, but in that I've met, friends. Now I have friends from Upper Deck and Panini and Topps. And so, you try to shape this. I think it's important for us guys like you and I and Nat and Grant and everybody really to put our ideas together and then approach these brands and approach PSA and help them understand. And honestly, like, Gene and Earl Arena they're not being used, they're not being leveraged. And so I'm actually helping them. I'm trying to help them find their way back in because they have so much knowledge and insight. And guys like us just have that. And so it's a really cool spot to be in as an agent to bring some of our knowledge and our ideas and our passion to an industry that in my opinion has otherwise gotten fairly stale over the last 15 years.
Yeah, totally. So I know everyone watching heard you say East Bay. You work there, Kevin Durant and Michael Jordan and some other names. So I think everyone's going to be mad if I don't ask for something.
Yeah, so you'll appreciate the KD story initially. I'll tell you MJ, I got to be a little careful with that. But with KD, so my job at East Bay was to get the cover athlete, right? And so it was to facilitate photo shoots, work with agents and players and even the brands to do that. And Nike wasn't cooperating too well. And so I went down to Kevin Durant's basketball camp, and it was July of 2011. And I just sat with him, and I was talking to him, and he's like, oh, I loved East Bay, man. Couldn't afford that, but I loved East Bay. And fortunate to be friends with the CEO of the camp company that was running it, and his name's Greg. He's a great guy. And he's like, yeah, Jordan, whatever you need. We did kind of a partnership and a sponsorship with East Bay. And so I was there, and I was just hanging with KD, and you're kind of trying to get to know him because ultimately I'm going to ask him if he wants to be on the cover.
Right.
And so get talking to him. I interviewed him. It was cool. He was very young. He had just won the scoring title, but still very young. And this was in Austin, Texas, where I was. And they had these cards of, I think it was 2011 Prestige for the kids. It was like for the campers to open. And so there was a big box of them, and they were just for prizes if they won a free throw contest or something like that. And KD and I are sitting there. It's him and his buddies, and we start opening packs. And he's like, I don't really know much about cards or what, but like I know I got a deal and this and that. And we started ripping packs, and he started grabbing them and putting his starting five. There were like 8 cards in the pack, and he would put his starting 5 and then 3 reserves, right? It was pretty fun. So I sat and ripped cards with him and his buddies for 3 straight hours.
Wow.
And the camp CEO came over because one of the contests got over and the kid won. And he came over and said, "Hey, you got any cards?" Katie looks at him and goes, "Nope, we ripped them all." And it was crazy. I have a photo of that actually. I'll send it to you. But so I sat and ripped cards with Katie and his buddies for like 4 hours.
That's nuts.
And then I said he actually pulled a card of himself and he signed it. I still have it, which is just a really cool like memory, right?
Right.
And then he signed my KD3, so I have some signed shoes from him. And then at the end, I was like, "Hey man, you want the cover of eSpay?" He's like, "Hell yeah, man, make that happen." So we ended up shooting Kevin Durant for $1,500 in gift cards.
Wow.
And Nike was pissed, but KD was happy, and then it all worked out. But it was funny because a few months later, we ended up doing a photo shoot with him in Oklahoma City. And I was like, "Do I bring cards? Like, we rip cards. Do I bring them, or is that weird?
Is that weird? I don't know. No, yeah.
And I didn't bring cards because I was like, I'm just going to be professional and everything."
He was mad about
it. He gets there and he meets everybody. He's like, "Hey, how's it going?" He meets everybody, looks at me. First thing he says, "Yo, you bring cards?" And I was like,
no,
I didn't bring cards." But it wasn't a big deal. But it was cool. He was super cool. I worked with him again after that. But now to see his journey and like he's one of the most humble, gracious athletes I've ever worked with, and he's the kind of guy, I think he loves the game more than anyone. And so I have picked up some KD rookies, nothing high end, but I try to have a rookie or two of every athlete I've worked with. At least if I enjoyed the experience. But yeah, that was pretty fun, and now to see him go do what he's doing is really cool to see, because how much he loves it, and he is a really cool guy. So, but yeah, to rip cards with a stud like that and it was very odd. He's like, "Oh, yo, I got me," and he sold it up. Like, could you sign that? He's like, "Yeah, sure."
It's really funny that's the first thing he asked you, though.
I know, and
what
I was
are the
like,
cards, dude?
Oh. He's like, "Yo, you bring cards?" I'm like, "Oh man, brutal." But also if you bring cards, you don't want to be like, "Yo, why are you trying to bring cards?" Like you just never know.
You're sitting there holding them, and he's like, "What are you doing?"
Exactly right. And there's a very fine line between like, being professional but it was cool. And then the Jordan thing was kind of an obscure thing. I can't get into too much detail, but I was very fortunate to work with him and spent about 45 minutes with him, and it was incredible. I talked with him, talked sneakers. Talk basketball, I said, "Hey man, you're single-handedly keeping the memorabilia industry in business. You know that, right?"
Yep.
And he goes, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh wow, it's good to hear. Cool, And so it was incredible. Like, I can imagine if you go up to him at a golf outing, he's like, "Man, who are you? Like, what's the deal?" But he was trapped at kind of a signing with me for 45 minutes, and it was great. My experience with him was good. Some people don't have the same, but I was lucky to have that.
That's awesome, dude. I'm out of questions, but if you want to just show cards or tell stories, like it's been an awesome interview, so I just kind of want to let you keep going.
Yeah, I mean, so let me go into some baseball. So like I said, I mean, I showed these already, but I think the Griffey stuff is cool. This is one of my favorite cards I own. I mean, I think this is just insane. He's got that tall hat and that swats the jersey, and even then, on the back they have like the actual date he wore it.
Right.
Which is great. This is, one of the beauties that the arenas did design. I'm sure you remember that.
It's cool how baseball has the bottom. I'm kind of jealous.
I know. It's weird that baseball, I have an Emmitt Smith like this as well. The baseball and football have the bottom cut, but the basketball doesn't, which is actually a question I have for them. It's very odd. But yeah, and then, this is another one I have, these, I love the anything Flair from the 90s, which it was hot numbers in football, hot gloves, hot hands in football. Actually, I have the Favre of that, which is, I mean, these are just unbelievable. I mean, the die cut and the color. I mean, look at how bold that, it's just, the color is so vivid.
Yep.
This is where you nerd out, like, grown men talking about how vivid color is on a cardboard. But, this is our art. This is when someone goes to an art gallery or a showing, or an art studio, this is to us, and we spoke about, before we started recording, like just the SP, the evolution. I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is the books that I'm writing, and some of the stuff I'll show you here is the evolution from, let's say, 90 on, was, Fleer Ultra, right? So I love Fleer Ultra. It's something that has a special spot in my heart. And I think, this is kind of the family aspect I was telling you about is, Fleer Ultra changed the game back in the day, and it was just these basic cards, but they were incredible, and they had that gold stripe and the gold Fleer Ultra stamp, really great imagery, and even on the back, they really took a lot of time and detail to make these designs. It's not lazy, now you see some lazy card design. So, that's the first year Ultra. And then the second year, I mean, these are all base cards, but as you know, just having this is all the Ultra base cards of Jordan from 92, 93. They skipped where he played baseball, but then it's 95.
That one's awesome, dude. I love that one.
Yeah, and then, of course, I love this. I mean, that Ultra, as you know, like this is the Kobe gold medallion from that year. Love that. And then I also have the Iverson gold medallion from that year. So like I love the Ultra stuff. I think it's really, really great. And then to cap it off, the 98 and then the 99, which was really awesome. But like I said, and then you get, some finest stuff, but then like to continue that kind of family aspect, you have the gold medallion. They started doing that this year. And this is I've seen this one go for $100 sometimes. It's pretty wild. And the gold medallion of that. These are all pretty obtainable. But like having all of them, I think is a special thing, and I think to me, it's like because it's complete. It's
right.
Just the Bulls uniforms with the gold medallion, and that's it.
Yep.
So then on that side, like I said, the refractors. I mean, those are all incredible. I think I do have the three main refractors on Jordan.
That one's sick.
Which are great. I love that one. That's just an 8. I'm probably going to crack that. I'm actually not a big fan of graded cards. I respect it, like we've talked about, just because of the authenticity. It authenticates it. But and then this is probably one of the better Ultra cards I have is just the Jordan Platinum.
Sick.
Which that's a beauty. But just to have that full Jordan and Kobe set, and then I do have the full Favre as well. This is the Favre Platinum. It's numbered at 98, so that's from 98. That's in pretty good shape. And then this is like a little obnoxious, but I have the Favre Platinum. I have 4 of the Favre Platinums, which is ridiculous. And for some reason, I stumble on them. They're like $40, and I'm like, well, just get them. Because, I mean, you guys touched on this in a previous episode. Like, once some of these are gone and they're in our collections, I mean, these Favres, I have 4 of them. So if I found the right Favre collector, I would obviously get rid of 1, 2, or even 3. But some of these cards, like, I mean, I'll show you the PMG and the rubies I have, but this isn't going anywhere. I mean, this is literally either staying in my family forever or going to the Green Bay Packers. And so, that's one less of 50 that you'll have a chance to find.
Right.
Favre, as you know, I mean, in any sport, these just don't pop up very much. And my friend Brent was cool enough to sell me a few of these rubies, actually. So, I know you guys are suckers for the rubies and the PMGs. So this is that last one was 97. This is 98. This one's out of 50 as well.
Suckers is an understatement.
Well, you guys all love that, but you're in the competitive sport of basketball. This one's out of 30. This is the 99, number 23 of 30. And then I'm big on 90s. So, excuse me, after the 2000s, I wasn't in it, number 1, so the cards aren't as nostalgic. But then this is 2000. So I have 97, 98, 99, 2000 rubies, which is, I don't know, you guys love those. But I also, once I have these now, that's it. And then the 98, this one's out of 50 as well. You guys know these very well. And the beauty is these are cheaper than basketball. You're paying, the funny thing is what I paid for this, Grant probably paid for the Sean Elliott in basketball, which is wild. And then this is one of my favorite cards. This is the red PMG and a 9, nice. And out of 150, as you know. But I'm not even super hyped on trying to get the green. I think it's fine, but it's also like, is it really worth 5Gs? Like, I can't see it, but I also understand how you're
just wrong,
guys,
sir. You're just wrong. It's fine.
You guys lust over that.
Look at my shirt.
I think. Well, you got your signed pennies that take care of,
right?
Yeah, to match your red. But and then I'm just thinking through, like, I think the biggest, I don't know if it's an accomplishment, but like what I'm most proud of is to go back and get some of the rookie cards, that I couldn't get when I was a kid. And so I think that's like the most fun. And honestly, like there's cards like this Skybox card, which is 94 Skybox. It's literally worth like a quarter.
Right.
That has more value to me than, a really high end insert of Favre because I just didn't have it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the important thing is and we always talk about it, kind of buy what you love or buy what makes sense. To you, it's just a different ball game. But a lot of these cards are super nostalgic. I think this is probably my favorite card. This is I always loved Skybox autographics, but
I didn't even notice it's jersey numbered the first time.
Yep, jersey number.
Wow.
That's a beauty. And that's like your, what do they call it? eBay 1 of 1.
Yeah.
But this is a card that, with that kind of, there's only 100. He actually didn't have a base card of this in this set that he autographed. So just being out of 100 is cool. But, Favre had a deal with Skybox back in the day. So Favre's deal with Skybox included, he was on the packaging and he did all these leather cards and all this crazy stuff. So it was definitely a big thing for me to see that, and it was super impressionable, and it did lead to a lot of this stuff. But like I said, I mean, everything we're doing with collecting, I think, this show that you've done is a catalyst for us all to move the industry forward. And I really do think we have a responsibility to find the younger version of us and to help them. A guy like Sam is great because he's like a sponge. He's super knowledgeable. But he's also like willing to learn. And like he said, he's like, I don't know anything about 90s, but I'm going to send him some 90s cards because it's good to know like where you've been, where you are, and where you're going. I know that's very cheesy, but ultimately, like now for me, the goal is the book, right? So I got into collecting, and now I'm like, I really do think it's as we create these books, I think we're able to leave behind something special that, somebody in 100 years could grab that book and be like us with the 1950s. We can read up on some of these players, like the mantle. I got a friend who's got the mantle and he's obsessed with it. And I'm like, dude, 1952, like you were negative 40 years, it's like something crazy, whereas I collect a lot of stuff that I was alive for, and I think if nobody documents this stuff, like you and I and Nat and some of these guys and Grant and everybody pooling our knowledge, if we don't document this knowledge is going to disappear. And so I think now with the internet, with Instagram, with video, and with it being so easy to take photos, with an iPhone, I do think we have an opportunity to leave something cool behind for the hobby. And I also think a lot of older guys that I've talked to already are like, man, I want that book. Like you tell me when that's ready, I'm gonna buy 3 copies,
Right.
Because they lived through it and they probably took out a second mortgage on their house to buy the Maguires, So that's been the cool thing. Just like your show, everybody I've talked to about the book has been very positive and willing to contribute. And hey, what can I do? Tell me what you need. And so, yeah, I mean, the goal is to get people's cards. I don't want it to be all high end. I really want it to be the full evolution. But I think we're on our way. The goal is 2020 for the book. So
great.
I'm excited.
I think you said it best when you said we have a responsibility. Like, there's books from the 50s and they didn't have, near the technology that we have today to be able to distribute this knowledge. So it's totally on us to make it happen. And the book, I think, is a fantastic idea. So I'm full support.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I think, for us, DM is the new email. We're DMing each other left and right. And I think, again, it's like Grant, you told a story about how Grant helped you get that penny PMG. And it really is indicative of what the hobby can be. And, Grant seems like a great guy. And even Nat and these guys that are just trying to help others, and that really is kind of the mission here, is to educate others and educate athletes and educate people that maybe don't have the knowledge they need, but we're able to take all this and bring it together and then distribute it, whether you do or I do or whoever does. But the hope is that the brands and the collectors and even the actual athletes start to really understand. Sure. I see Topps just did a thing with Bryce Harper where he kind of curated the entire collection. And it's amazing. It's like Harper's Heroes, and he's like has Griffey and all these guys that he looked up to. And I think that's important for these brands to get even deeper. I believe like a Panini, who say they do a signing with like Deshaun Watson, they spend an hour signing cards and then all the employees just want to get selfies and stuff. And I'm like, why don't you invite the fans? I feel
Totally.
like,
yeah.
Imagine if Penny was doing a signing and they were like, yo, Josh, you should come through. What? Excuse me? But that loyalty to Penny that you have is then rewarded, right? So
Right.
I think things will change. I think as the younger regime and kind of guys like us really do not just play around and collect, but we actually, have a purpose and a mission to move it forward, which I know a lot of these guys are trying to do by helping the authentication and helping, just clean things up. I think it's been a little bit of a dirty industry for a while since I was a kid, and now for us to actually be catalysts for good, I think it's a really powerful thing that I think future generations probably don't even understand, but I think we'll be catalysts and historians that I think have a great opportunity to change things.
Couldn't agree more, man. You said it perfectly, so I'll leave it at that. I do want to say, again, one more time, amazing, dude. Yeah, I mean, you already know, like, this thing's going to mean 10 times to me what it's going to mean to someone else in their collection, and I have this amazing story that I opened it on camera, and, like, it's the story behind it, right? It's not just that I could have just, gone on eBay and bought one or something, right? I could have, like, found something signed, but it's like, it's going to mean 10 times more, right?
For sure. I mean, I think the takeaway from that is that, people are watching, and people are paying attention. And it's funny, when I met Sam at a card show in New York, the guys he was with, he said, "Hey guys, Jordan recognized me from the podcast." And they were like, "Wait, what?" Because they're doubting it, and they're like, "Come on, that's nothing. It's got a few hundred views, this and that." And they don't understand, like, people are watching, and I do think that we have that responsibility to nurture our relationships and find ways to maximize, right? Like, I think what I enjoy is that penny, that day I got those signed, I had no idea what I was doing. I got my pair and I was cool. And I said, well, I happen to have this other pair, let me get it signed. But that those found their rightful home, and that you now have a story that you can show your son, and the world will kind of see, right? And different collectors will understand that this really isn't about me. This isn't about you. It's really about, like, the universe finding things that will be appreciated, right? And one of my favorite quotes is, appreciation is the currency of success, and I wouldn't have given you those shoes unless I knew they'd be fully appreciated. And I'm sure you'll get off camera and stare at them for 10 minutes. So
you're saying words, but I just see, no, I'm just kidding.
I knew that would be the case. I was like, when should I give them to him? Because it's probably just going to be want after that. But no, man, I will say that, the takeaway for me especially is that, you have been a catalyst for me too, to think about, what is the end goal. And I know, I'm sure the other guys are even craving to talk more about this. And so sure. This starts a conversation. I have a feeling Michael's going to start his own YouTube channel. Like, these guys they love it, and they want to talk about it more. So I do think, being a catalyst is a huge deal. And so I think those shoes are also a catalyst for people to understand, that being generous is also something that matters, totally. and gracious, and you've always been gracious when we've talked. So I appreciate that.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on. Thanks again for the shoes. And yeah, everything you're saying about the channel that I'm running is spot on. Like, I'm gonna keep it going. I'm gonna keep bringing different people on, different, unique, diverse people, like anything I can find. And I don't have a billion views or whatever yet, but that's not the goal really. So I appreciate the kind words you said about the channel, and we'll do another one, dude. Like, I've already told a couple of the other guys, this is gonna stop with like one per person. We'll just we'll keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, I think you talked about it in another episode, the round table. Yeah. But I also think that, something at the national where we even try to work with some brands. I have some friends in Chicago, so I think even doing some kind of a pop-up, like, with some, like, not a museum, but something unique. I know everybody's displaying, but I have some good friends in Chicago. I think we could do something really, really cool with, and, have it be curated by the group of people. I think would be really sweet.
Sweet. Let's talk about that more. I'll let you go now. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Cool, man. Yeah. Keep up the good work.
See you.